You heard about him in the 90s, didn't you, because of Yahoo? He then became the richest man for 3 days, and then he lost 90% of his wealth.
98.
On the fourth or fifth day or whatever, yeah. Because of the dot-com bubble.
Yes. I mean, he'd made a lot of money on paper through his investment in Yahoo. He did that in 1995, 96. So that was worth several billion by then. And then he just sprayed the money around on all sorts of dot-com, including, by the way, the dog walking app. You knew that. Should have written a bit more of that, probably. And some crazy loss makers, Webvan. These would be familiar to anybody who remembers the dot-com bubble. But when it finally burst, April 2000, February 15th, he was the richest man in the world. Within 6 weeks, it was already going down. And it wasn't a sort of overnight crash. It was a sort of, it was like the bubble slowly deflating. Yeah. But amazingly, I mean, this is incredible. Within months, he's saying, well, now's a good time to invest because markets have gone down so far. And second, you clear up the mess and I'm going to invest in broadband. And that's what he did. I mean, and he was losing $1 billion a year on broadband, but he was convinced that's the future. I'm going to do that. So I think for readers and listeners, I mean, this is all about, reinvention if you're a capitalist. You're an entrepreneur. You have to be constantly thinking about reinvention.
The biggest lesson I've taken from it is just take risks. Because if this man can put everything on the line over and over again and always come back, and you're talking hundreds of billions, like you can carve out 10 grand or 5 grand or a grand or just a bit of your time and just try something. Because I think most people are just so scared to take any risk.
I think that's absolutely right, by the way. I mean, some of it is not necessarily rational. Mm-hmm. But you need to sort of get over that. If you're being incredibly rational, incredibly careful, then you're not probably going to make any money.
Yeah, you shouldn't really invest in anything if you're being super rational. You're like, it's safe if I just keep it safe rather than taking the risk. But when Damien was saying about when he met Warren Buffett and he didn't get his investment, have you, in your experience, seen any time when he's like lost self-belief, or is he always just like fully entrenched in his ideas and no matter what happens, he's unwavering? Or has he shown any faltering at any time? Like maybe that wasn't the best.
Is he human?
Is he human, or is he just a legendary like gambler who just never second guesses himself?
Yeah. I think he does go through these acts of penance where he sort of says he's sorry and, he may have overreached a bit. But I'm not convinced that he really believes this.
Just lip service.
I think he thinks, basically, I am right. I just got the timing wrong. Mm. I was ahead of my time. Mm-hmm. And so it was just a question of timing. I think the only time he really... there's a little bit of the self-belief begins to ebb a bit. You can tell when he frowns. So in the book, I spend a lot of time going through various photographs and thinking, what are the photographs that are really telling? Now, I would say that there's at least a couple in this book that I really like. One of them is a self-portrait. And by the way, we were talking about the dual personality. Masa is actually a rather good artist. He paints. He paints in the late 19th century Impressionist style, but he also did this self-portrait of when he was 16 years old. And it's a really dark portrait. And when I asked him about it, he said he felt suicidal when he was 16 because he was so rejected, discriminated against, and that was why he went to America. I think the other moment, the other picture I like is the frown, the Masa frown. When he's frowning, that's when you know he's really teed off. Mm. He's really got some doubt, what on earth has gone wrong here? And there's a bit of self-doubt.
So the audience can kind of wrap their head around this, because we throw around some big numbers, but how much money do you think he's lost over his investing career?
Cumulatively, if you're talking about paper losses included, I would say over $250 billion.
This guy. And he's worth about 35,
31.
40.
I think he's about 35 gross, because he's obviously got borrowings. Now, those are very hard to figure out. What does he owe the banks? Has he, those loans are against SoftBank's stock, which, by the way, now has picked up again. And that's gone through peaks and troughs. Overall, if you'd invested in SoftBank in the last 10 plus years, you would have done slightly better than the S&P. Not much better, which isn't that good. On the other hand, if you traded in and out at the right times, you would have done really quite well. But you need still good stomach.
Better than the S&P is pretty good. Most people don't, over 10 years, especially the last 10 years, it's been pretty good.
I mean, that company that we just mentioned, ARM, the semiconductor designer company based in Cambridge, that he bought at 32 billion in 2016, literally in the middle, just after Brexit. So we had no government. I'm amazed that I've done a whole chapter on that. I'm amazed that there's not been a little bit more comment, because we were the naked emperor in the room, and he just came in and, took the company. It's now worth about $140 billion. Think about that, because of the, we'll probably talk about this, the AI boom.
That was a clip from our interview with Lionel Barber, former editor of the FT, about his book, which covers one of the craziest investors on the planet, Masayoshi Son. Click here for the full episode.